Okay.
We are effectively on. Tory, welcome to the Luke Farr Show, show to motivate, educate, and inspire our next generation of leaders. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Very good. Just to give the audience a little bit of context there. So from, tracking back there from a BA that you studied at Victoria University in Film and Media to a range of digital marketing roles that you bridged into, and then on to a Chief of Staff appointment for the Green Party New Zealand, which you held for effectively 6 years, and then to now running for Wellington Mayor. Quite the progression there, Tory. I mean, where do you think your insatiable hunger for success comes from?
I think I would call it an insatiable hunger for politics and trying to help create better laws that impact everyday New Zealanders. I've always had sort of politics in the back of my mind. So my koro was an activist, and I do come from, while they never worked in politics, I come from a highly political family who care about the issues. You know, how do we look after our whanau? How do we look after our tamariki and build a better future? So that's always sort of lingered, and through a couple of other roles. This might be interesting. I was also a film censor a few years back. So before I got into marketing, I was a film censor, which involved me having to watch hours and hours and hours of pornography.
Right.
Yeah, and it was a really horrendous job, but it was also a recession, so it was very difficult to get out of. But that came from my background in film, and being exposed to that sort of content, further politicized me and turned me into, something of a raging feminist, I would say. So that certainly kind of like really sparked the flame and the fire, where I started to progress from whanau issues to things like women's refuge, rape crisis, that sort of thing. And then my dream role came up eventually at the Green Party as the head of digital, and it's just been full go ever since.
Full go ever since. Now, just to sort of bridge back into, and I guess I didn't sort of envisage us talking around pornography at all, but anything's on the table, and I think it's quite interesting. But from a female perspective, like in your opinion, what are some of the really big negative connotations around pornography, do you think, for both men, for both male and female?
Of course, and it is something that I'm quite interested in, because we were exposed as film censors to a lot of literature around this topic. So it's actually a really fascinating topic. But what I witnessed is kind of like a real high level of misogyny, right? You had, so my job was to review things to see if it was breaking the law, then would get it cut. But things like that would get cut were like dehumanizing women, degrading women, which was actually incredibly common in this material. The choking without consent, a lot of non-consensual material, and a real power imbalance. It was really, really unpleasant. And when you think about today, like there's a lot of this, the Andrew Tates of this world who have a really unhealthy relationship towards women. I can't help but think that has been driven from a lot of the pornography that they might have watched when they were younger, because that's exactly the sort of attitude that I witnessed. So there's this massive, now I'm going on a massive tangent here, but there's this real...
No, that's okay. It's a great tangent. And look, I'm happy to sort of sit on that, because it's a very interesting topic, especially around the choking, which is symbolic towards rape. And I mean, I'm speaking from personal experiences. I've had women that, request it, and I'm just like,
totally, yeah.
I was like, where's this coming from? Like, I don't want to choke you. I want to treat you like a lady and make love.
Yeah.
I don't know why where they're getting that information from, whereby choking is good.
I think it has come from a deep exposure to pornography, and it's somehow become normalized with today's sexual relationships. And look, I'm not here to kink shame. If people are legitimately into that, that's all good. But what we're talking about is non-consensual and huge disrespect towards, women and men and non-binary, whatever. But there is a very harmful attitude that's growing, and I'm seeing it a lot on TikTok. And it's just kind of taking me back to those film censor days and going, there's so much education and unlearning that society needs to do for us to build healthy relationships.
Absolutely, yeah, couldn't agree more. And then you mentioned there if we were talking about what's your take on pronouns, the he, she? Do you think we've gone too far, or what's your?
No, well, look, I'm part of the kind of generation that came just before it started happening, right? So I'm learning and I'm trying to normalize it in my speech. And I have, people around me who are non-binary or are transitioning. Look, it's a learning curve. And I think it's something that the community really wants us to do. So I'm leaning in and I'm giving it a go. I think there's a lot of people out there who are generally just opposed to change, because it's too hard or so forth. But we've just got to go, look, well, we want to treat everyone with respect, right? A community has requested, this is a way of respecting them. So let's make the effort.
Absolutely. Yeah, good. Good feedback there. I agree. Let's talk about your role at the Greens there as obviously Chief of Staff. I mean, what did an average day look like? Run that through for the audience that are wanting to embark on that type of career.
It is such a hard role to describe because, genuinely no day would be the same. But I would say the mixture would be, I was in charge of all the staff and I was the most senior advisor to all the MPs and especially the co-leaders. And would negotiate with the other parties. But on a daily basis, it would be like leading the strategic morning call with all staff and all MPs in the morning to be like, here's how we're approaching today, to having a therapy session with a staff member or MP, or to producing a policy launch, to putting out a crisis or a fire. It was an incredibly diverse, intense, and you really had an intense role and you had to be really passionate about what you did to survive in that role. It is like nothing I'd ever experienced and I loved it. But after 6 years, it just I got a bit burnt out, to be honest. And it was time to hand over the reins to someone else.
And it was time to run for the mayor of Wellington.
Just to stress myself out more.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Just got all too hectic, so let's run for mayor because that's just a walk in the park.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's like I'm addicted to this vibe, but yeah.
You're addicted to the hustle, obviously.
I am.
I want to talk a little bit about negotiation at the business table and strong, hearty debates, which you would have definitely experienced as a politician there for the Green Party. I mean, what do you think some of the key strengths one should have to enable them to navigate the room efficiently and to really generate real results there?
So for me, it's kind of like when you go into a room, you do have to put your emotions and politics aside. You've got an outcome that you want, as does the other person. You need to treat each other with respect. So I think before you get to that point, relationship management is key because you develop that level of respect and will genuinely kind of try to meet each other halfway. So that was always my approach with the other chiefs of staff and possibly other MPs. And I had really fantastic relationships with the chief of staff to the Prime Minister and the chief of staff from New Zealand First. So look, we would sometimes win, we would sometimes lose. I'd be like, hey mate, we want no new minds. Let's agree to that. Nah, not going to happen. Okay, can we meet each other halfway? And it never turned into a brawl or a fight or anything like that. It's because you understood where the parameters were. So that's generally how I would approach it. That's how I'd approach it with council, is respecting what every person who has been elected and has every right to be there with their views. Let's try to, at the beginning, let's agree on the vision, what we're trying to achieve as a government or as a council, which is what all the coalition agreements were written for. And how's the best way we're going to get to that point? We're going to have to make some compromises. It's going to upset our respective parties or our constituents, but it's kind of the only way forward. And compromise is probably one of the most difficult aspects of negotiating that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, no, you're holding my hand or you're not holding my hand, and are we in this together? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do we share the same vision, mission, and values, essentially, right?
Yeah, and it's like, I believe, actually, while I disagree with some of the tactics that some councillors have used, who doesn't want a better Wellington? Like, you'd have to be a pretty terrible person to go, no, I want our city to crumble. I don't want homes to be affordable. No one's going to say that.
No, mate, I want more wind, more rain.
More wind. Let's make the city worse.
Right now.
Yeah, exactly. We all want the best. Sometimes politics just comes into play, and it's the job of mayor to cut through that and go, cool. but let's just come to an outcome here, you know, and navigate through all of those personalities, all those politics, and just be the leader and make a decision. And that's something that I love doing.
Absolutely, and actually make it happen, right? And let's talk about that a little bit, because politicians do have a reputation and are well renowned for a lot of talk and little action. I mean, your message is pretty plain and clear that you'll actually get the job done, and you're campaigning that. Like, in your opinion, what are some key traits and characteristics of someone that actually gets the job done and actually generates results? You know, what are they doing that the talkers are not doing?
So I think you should go in with your own vision as well, like, and be very clear. Look, as mayor, this is some of the stuff that I want to achieve, but I'm going to need to bring you all on board for that to happen. I'm not going to win everything. That's all good. And the other things, like just not being afraid to just make a call, being bold. Andy, our current mayor, is a really lovely man, and he is a really hard worker, but he is a fence sitter as well. That's not what Wellington needs. But
I hear a big but. Yeah, I heard another but. Yeah, there's some buts coming. I love that. Always start it with a compliment.
I know, the compliment sandwich. But you know, we kind of
like performance reviews. Really love what you're doing. You're really strong.
Yeah, that's right. But well, it's kind of like whenever he's asked about an issue, he just sits on the fence and doesn't make a call. Make a call. Let Wellington know what you're about, even if you're wrong. It's all good. We're allowed to make mistakes. I also think what is missing, two other things. One is just kind of team leadership. So he doesn't have that skill. He went to a $30,000 course to learn how to be a leader, and it didn't work. Look, some people are built for leadership, some are not. And the last thing is, look, we need a mayor with some charisma. We need someone who Wellingtonians are actually going to get on board with and like, someone who's not afraid to have a beer at the pub, tell a joke, be really honest about who they are. I think I'm that person. And I've got nothing to lose.
Wine, red, Spates, Parrot Dog, Craft.
I'm actually a red wine drinker. I should have just said wine, but I mean, I love my wine, and
very good.
No secret of that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so right, Tory, so some things you are wanting to fix, the water infrastructure, public transport system, and over-the-top rents. I mean, what out of those three do you really think will be the most challenging, and why?
I think the most challenging will be housing and rents, because it's quite a big crisis, and it requires the work of not only council but the government to be able to get in and impact. So I think like one of my policies was to build 20,000 new homes along the Green Corridor, where Let's Get Welly Moving is positioned to be, and we can utilise certain powers to fast track those homes, which is great. So we should just do it. So that's sort of one solution. I'm also keen to, lobby the government on behalf of Wellington. How do we put some tools in place to make rent fairer for our renters? How do we make our homes to a higher standard? Everyone's entitled to a warm, dry home. So there's a mixture of what council can do and government, which is why the mayor's relationship with the government is incredibly important. That is something I have in spades and would certainly utilise as mayor.
That's interesting, and I'm not going to get into debate-wise here because I love everything you're saying. However, I would like you to unpack that. You said everyone's entitled to a warm, dry home. Even if they're not working and contributing and paying tax, you still think they're entitled
of
to a warm, dry home when they're not actually working, if they're capable to work, sorry?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say about that is we have quite a large vulnerable community, right? Who for whatever reason, they're not working, they might be on the streets, they might be sleeping rough. The problem is a lot of what drives that is either mental health issues or alcohol and drug problems as well, which is why one of my policies, on top of providing more homes as well as a homelessness shelter, is ensuring we have those wraparound services to help those vulnerable communities to kind of come back to us. We as taxpayers, as ratepayers, I believe we have a duty to look after our fellow community. We do not leave them at the bottom. And I know, look, there are some people out there say that's not fair, they're not contributing. And I get that, I hear it, it's frustrating, especially when so many work really hard, but we don't know the background of these people. We don't know what they've been through. We've got to approach this problem with compassion, because, if we...
You're a firm believer of meritocracy, or?
Yeah, well, it's like if we had a choice to give up more money to pull someone out of a really desperate situation, which allowed them to not be hungry anymore, would we not take it? You know, it's you know, we all have a caring person inside us, but sometimes we just have to cut through the politics and go, we look after our people.
Yeah, amen to that. Absolutely. Let's talk about some key challenges whilst running for mayor. Obviously, there's a range of things you've got to do, from campaigning, putting billboards up, meeting the community, going into different suburbs and areas. Like, what for you has been the biggest sort of learning curve and been like, wow, this is harder than I thought it would be, you know?
Yeah, I was reflecting on that yesterday, actually. I am almost quite relieved that I announced last November, because I was a backroom staffer, right? Had never given a public speech of a political nature, blah, blah, blah. The last 10 months has allowed me to learn how to be a politician, a public figure. And now I love it. Like, I love this kind of talking to people, giving speeches. So that has been a challenge, but an enjoyable one. The stuff that isn't enjoyable is the, you know, harassment and negative comments and trolls setting up fake accounts to purposely send me negative comments, like calling me an idiot, or you should get into a bikini and mud wrestle with Tamitha Paul, you know, or
wow.
Was
that really a comment? That is horrific.
That was really a comment on Twitter, and I sent it to a journalist too, and then, you know, like, you're hot, want to hook up, even though I've never met you, you know, like it's just
wow. Well,
yeah,
they're really running similar lines to the dating apps there.
Well, no, that's right. They, you know, running from there is apparently Tinder. I don't know, but that's been challenging. But also, when when you counterbalance that with the reaction from women in the community, like, so empowering. You know, so many women have come to me and said, "Thank you for having the courage to stand. I couldn't do it," and I'm just like, one of us has to. It's all good. And if I do now, even if I lost, I can guarantee the next election we'll have more women standing, because we just have to normalize this, even if it's hard.
I agree. I'm into the Wahinis out there for sure.
That's right.
Power to them. For the Tory, for the youth out there that are really wanting to embark on a career in politics, what should be they aware of, and how can they be, or how can they best set themselves up for success?
I think first, figure out what you're really passionate about, because that should be the reason you want to represent your community or get into Parliament, as well as changing laws. There are people out there who care about the legislative process, and that's great. They'll end up in politics. But if you're passionate about issues and want to see change, narrow those down. For me, it was kind of like women's issues, Māori issues, which then has spread out to community and housing. But and then just start volunteering for causes. Like, getting a politics degree doesn't guarantee you a career in politics. I failed politics. I failed in second year and dropped out.
What did you major and get a dissertation and honours in film and media studies and specialising in pornography, or how did that?
Yeah, I majored in porn. No, but I actually did do an honours paper in film.
Hang on, the Twitter trolls are now going to jump on that around the bikini.
I know, they're going
to mud wrestling and.
Yeah, that's right. I've just handed something.
There'll be some new memes coming out soon.
There will be. Yeah. Well, when you've been memed, you know you've made it. So
that's true. That's very true. Yeah, the Luke Farr show hasn't been memed yet. I can't be doing well enough. That's good.
Well, maybe I'll make a meme.
Yeah, that sounds good. I want to touch on excuse me. You mentioned there the Māori issues. Do you think we've really come a long way with that? And I want to track back to something you put on your website there. And in 1988, you're a poster child for Māori underachievement, that is, and your photo accompanied an article about Māori and Pacifica kids struggling at school, and underneath your smiling face ran the lines, effectively saying this: Tory Whanau turns 5 next month. She's desperately keen to be off to school. Can't wait. She is a bright, lovely child and should do very well. Unfortunately, the odds are against it. I mean, that's just obviously a journalist just really potentially doing a sensationalized article. But do you think we've come a long way in New Zealand with offering Māori, just equal rights and giving them the best shot for success? Do you think we're...
Yeah, of course. And especially with... I was really pleased with the current government, how they ensured that proper New Zealand history is taught in schools. Te Reo Māori is free in most places. And in fact, there are waiting lists with mostly Pākehā on those lists. And that is so heartening to me. It means that our country is turning a point, or has turned a point, and we're really embracing it. I think, there are still people perhaps in those rural communities who are still falling through the cracks, so we still need to do some work. And I would love to see, government support for more marae-based initiatives just to help those families kind of get back on track again. So yes, I do think we've come a long way, but there's always more we can do.
What type of marae-based initiatives are you talking? More like community-driven, bringing in, doing the proper hungies and getting together and collaborating that way, or in a different way?
It's so initially it's ensuring that people are really because as when you're tangata whenua and you become disengaged from your culture, that's sort of actually when people go off and do not bad things, but might get a bit lost and end up in a vulnerable state. So we need to ensure that Māori have that really strong connection to their iwi, to their hapu, because that's where our strength is drawn from.
Right.
Yeah, and
for the people out there that don't know, sorry to interrupt you, but for the people out there that don't know what tangata whenua is, that a connection with whenua's land, right?
Yeah.
And then the tangata is your tribe?
But people. So iwi is tribe, hapu is kind of like sub-tribe. So, and that's who you tend to deal with a lot on your marae. And growing up in an education system, a lot of Māori feel really insecure when you're surrounded by more Pākehā and Pākehā teachers. It's just a thing we just can't shake. And then there's like this self-fulfilling sort of situation where we feel like an idiot, and therefore it impacts your grades. So sometimes being in a Māori environment, you just feel a bit more confidence. So I just wonder.
So that's a very fascinating topic. So majority of Māori in New Zealand, whether or not they're growing up or adult, they do have a mentality that either they've been hard done by, or they're not confident, and they don't feel like they can speak out and tell people their inner values or opinions. Is that that's very interesting. I didn't know that.
It's a confidence thing. I mean, I can only speak from my experience and many others that I know. Like I was always deeply embarrassed or didn't want to make a fuss. If I didn't know the answer to something, I would never ask because I didn't want to look dumb, because I didn't want to fulfill stereotypes. So it's.
Hey, look, no, on the Luke Farr show, no question's a dumb question. I just asked you what tangata whenua, and I don't know. People will be laughing. People will be laughing at me. They're going, "Does he not know what tangata whenua is?"
Not at all.
Well, especially with the movement of today in New Zealand over the last 3 years, they'll be like, "Yeah," but it's more for the people out there. It's like, I'll ask the dumb question, be vulnerable, but I guarantee there'll be people watching going, "I didn't know what tangata whenua was."
100%. No question is dumb. And actually, what I learned working at
apart from 1 + 1.
1 + 1. I mean, lots of problems if you don't know that. But I'd be in the room with, say, the Prime Minister, and they'd be talking about a specific policy, and I'd sit there and go, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then I'd try to research it later, and I was just like, I can't do my job if I don't know. At that point.
And are they using really big words? Big
words. And I'm like, come on, man. So then I just started asking. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, stupid question. What's that an acronym for? And people would laugh and go, I don't know that either, so I think there's this culture of trying to be the smartest, or who's gonna, and I'm just like, let's just get over ourselves.
Yeah,
let's ask a dumb question.
I'd imagine you wouldn't be the first to be the one holding back in meetings.
100%. That's a good thing. Who wants to, be that person in front of the Prime Minister, But I'm just like, oh, no shame. I'm just going to ask. And it was actually.
And that's good. And to be fair, that's probably got you to where you are today, really.
Totally.
I think, the more you're asking, because the more you're learning. You sit there and play cool and have this facade on and ego as if you know anything, and you don't. You're only going to look like an idiot down the track.
Exactly. It was an incredibly liberating experience, actually. And sort of since then, even as mayor, like if I'm asked questions about certain policies, I'll go, oh, look, I don't even have that detail yet. My bad, but I'll get back to you. It is
my bad. I'll circle back in 2 years.
I'm like, oh, my B. And people are like, oh, sweet as, it's the honesty around, look, I don't know that, I don't have the answer to that. Don't fluff, don't pretend. People can see right through that. And that's something I've learned over the last 3 years in particular. and I'm much happier for it.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds good. So what's it like? So you're running for mayor. There's obviously a lot sort of PR and brand equity around you as a person and what you do and where you go and what you get up to and things. Is there an element where now that you are running for mayor, as opposed to when you're with the Green Party, that you're just a little bit more sort of cautious about what you're doing, where you're going, who you're bumping into, what types of conversations you have? Have you sort of changed the narrative almost, or are you just still your true, authentic self, and you'll still just be you? Or are you sort of, would you say you're a changed human now that you're running for mayor?
Nah, so that was the intent.
Nah.
To be honest, I was like, oh, I'm going to be really well behaved. I'm going to be a polished politician.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I'm not going to swear. But then I just couldn't do it. I gave a political speech, and trying to be all prim and proper, and I was like, this is so fake. It's not me. So over the minute, I started getting all sassy and telling my jokes, and the whole crowd just completely bought into it. They were like, yes, that's our girl, and it's, I sort of think now is the time for this sort of different type of politician to come through, right? Because trust is starting to erode, I think. Now we just want to start seeing people like us, like realness, and just like, if a policy's not going to happen, just be honest about it. And so I hope that's what I can offer. I hope Wellington is ready for that. But I tried to be well behaved.
They are ready. They're ready for that authenticity and genuineness, and it really does come across. It really does. I mean, because you grew up in Porirua, right? What was childhood like?
It was good. So I grew up in a state house on Corinna Street in Cannons Creek.
Shout out Corinna Street.
Corinna Street. Went to Cannons Creek Primary School. So it was a great community, and my parents' family were all lived within the neighbourhood, and it was loving. And so great, no complaints. And then we moved to Taranaki when I was about 8, around about, and it was kind of the same. Probably a really strong, much stronger Māori community. And that's where our iwi is from as well. So there was a much bigger connection and very rewarding. So I feel like I've had a privileged upbringing because I was always surrounded by love and community.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. And that's very important. I came from Hawke's Bay and came up in a similar environment. For sure. Okay, let's talk future success. Once you obviously successfully land the mayoral role, and then you achieve everything you want to achieve. I mean, is the pipe dream to be the Prime Minister? Is this where Tories go? A big hard no.
No, that's
you're just going to stay in mayor. You're going to compete with Tim Shadbolt. You're going to see if you can.
I don't mind. Yeah.
Compete with his
long term. I've told
long term.
Long term. I'm in for the long haul.
Takes a while to make change.
Yeah. No. I would love to ideally do 3 terms, right? Because I think. I do have sympathy for those who've only had one, because it does take for some things more than 1 term to create a significant change. I want to be able to do that over 3, climate change. We're not going to fix that in 1 term. I'd love to see, our city become a zero carbon city. That's going to take a very long time. Housing, I would at least start building next term, as well as our water infrastructure. And I think what Wellington's need is also consistency and a long-term project plan and stuff like that, and just certainty. And so I think a long-term mayor, which I really want to be, is the goal. Then I might retire after that. I don't know.
I'm sure you've invested your 1.2 million wisely from Whanau in 2002. So that's awesome, though. That would have paid for education, and did you just buy a house outright?
Yeah. So bought a home, paid off my parents' mortgage and bills, family bills, that sort of thing. And it's just, it's just allowed me to do the stuff that I care about, like working for the Green Party, working for Plunkett, thinking I wanted to be a film censor, but then didn't want to be. But
and what genre? Sorry, just to get that clear.
Horror films.
And to be fair, some of them are.
They really were. That's legit. And it's allowed me to take some time off now so that I can properly campaign, so that I win. I really want to win. So I've paid for most of my campaign, actually, and I thank the lottery money for allowing me to do that.
I mean, that's the thing, right? And look, let's talk straight there. It's like when you're campaigning and when you're running either, president, it's like you need a significant amount of money behind you, right? And often the people with the bigger pockets and get the bigger donations win. I mean, they said Trump spent upwards of 100 million.
Yeah, it's a shame because it means that some truly talented would-be politicians who don't have access to that sort of money won't get a look in, and that makes me sad. But and I could have very well been that person, but thanks to the lottery, I have a chance with the big players now. So I acknowledge that.
Did you win what, instant Kiwi, or was it just classic lotto?
It was classic lotto.
Jackpot? No, actually, no, because
so it was a Powerball, a massive Powerball prize, but then jackpotted and went down to second division. So it was like 14 of us got a cut of a big $17 million prize, which I was gutted about because I was like one number off, and I was like, oh damn! But then can't be greedy. No one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what a shame! I just won 1.2 million. I can imagine all the people around Wellington playing the pokies being like, "Oh, what a shame! I just won the jackpot."
yeah, lame. No kidding.
Yeah, lame. Yeah, it's like, to be fair, I've just got my money back. Well, at least you've invested wisely, though, Tory. I mean, because there is a stat out there that say majority of people that do win lotto go even further into debt after 5 years.
They do, and I
don't know how to manage money. Yeah,
they don't know, and I know of a couple of people that happened to as well. And so the Lotteries Commission brought me on board as a bit of a mentor for the first few years to sort of talk to new winners and be like, you need to get some financial advice. Don't panic. Don't this. Don't that. My mum was a bank manager. So
there we go. You financially savvy. Well, you'd hope to think so.
Well, exactly. Whereas I was 20 years old and I was ready to kind of like go hard, and she was just like, "Oh no, you don't. No, you don't.
Oh, the
you were getting a lawyer."
Getting the finger out.
All that. And she was
Beyonce like, finger, I call it.
She really did. She was like, "You calm down, girl." And I was like, but Mum, I want some money. But my mum, thank goodness for her. She knocked some sense into me until I had enough sense of my own.
Yeah. How cool. Well, that's so great. Hey, were you at that, just to digress, and I'm sure the audience will appreciate if they do live in Wellington. Well, some of them do live in Wellington, but were you at that the political quiz at Parrot Dog last night?
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Yeah, because I saw your post, and then a friend of ours we looked into it, and then I was like, oh right, no, the Parrot Dogs actually closed it down, and it's a special event, and you need a table. Yeah. I was thinking it was just a quiz night arranged by a politician, but no.
Oh no. It was a special fundraiser for Whanau, who's running in that ward, and I ended up being the auctioneer. So that was a lot of fun.
Cool. Who won the Cook Island trip?
So a lovely group of young women who have, in their early 20s. So they've gone splitsies, and they're going to have an epic holiday in the Cook Islands.
That's cool.
So that's great.
Nice. And good gender balance there between men and women, or
it really was, yeah. I'd say it was half and half. Yeah, it was. I
just thought I'd ask a feminist there. I just thought.
No, fair. So we had some feminist men there as well. It was great.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, for the people actually out there, it's good to clear that up, actually, Tory, because some men actually don't know what feminism is. Some I've spoken to have thought that it's when you think that that women are, I guess, taking the lead on things and always governing and wanting to, showcase that. But it's not, is it? No. I mean,
no.
It's really just respecting women from a gender equality perspective, right?
100%. It is just all about gender equality.
Which men should, all men should be.
Yeah. Like, I would like to think that we're all feminists, but to reach that gender equality, women and some men too need to just push quite hard to ensure that equality is reached. Like, we're pushing women into leadership roles so that we're at 50%. And we know that, there's been a lot of gender pay gap. There's been evidence of women being looked over in certain roles. So we have to push hard to normalize it to reach true equality. People mistake that for something else, but it's just kind of what we have to do, so that in time we won't need to push.
Is there anything, like, just to go technical on the biological structure? Because I mean, there's certain people out there, certain scientists that talk about it, which I find fascinating, and I just ponder it. But I mean, it'd be good to get your take on it. But because of the differentiation around chromosomes,
Yeah.
and all of that, and then the personality traits that aren't quite aligned, therefore a male might be more strong in certain areas and a woman strong in other areas, you know? So is that some part of the reason as to why women aren't going into certain roles? Or
I don't know. I don't think that is not part of.
All right, we'll park that question. We'll move on. Yeah,
Move on.
yeah. Let's go back to horror film studies. No, that's all good. Hey, Tory, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for coming on the Luke Farr Show to motivate, educate, and inspire our next generation of leaders. I do want to thank you for coming on, and also our lovely sponsors, Autophagy Skincare. You can check more out at www.autophagyskincare.com, and Julie Smith Real Estate in the Hawke's Bay. Go the Hawke's Bay. Local blood. Love it. But Tory, thank you so much for coming on. I really did appreciate it, and it was a good conversation.
Thank you for the robust and interesting convo. That was great. Thank you for having me.
Robust.
Robust.
Yeah, I love the dynamics of topics we covered. It was awesome.
Yeah. Went all over the place. It's great.
Yeah. North, east, south, and west. Keep people on their toes, right? It's all good. I will. I'll just quickly wrap up and we'll do a debrief.